I lay there, eyes fixed on the ceiling, still feeling the lingering buzz of the night, but the emptiness inside hadn't faded. James was beside me, his breath slowing, his body relaxed in contentment. He thought he'd given me what I needed, but he was wrong. I turned to him, tracing my fingers along his chest, sensing the faint tension beneath his skin. His smirk was lazy, amused. I leaned in, lips brushing his ear, and whispered, "I think you should text your friends." For a moment, his body tensed, but then amusement flickered in his eyes. He chuckled softly, grabbed his phone, and tapped out a message. "Done," he said. Now we just had to wait. The ice in my glass had melted, but I barely noticed, lost in the distant murmur of irrelevant conversations. My body was there, but my mind was tangled in the previous night. I hadn't sought it out, but when I found it, I couldn't look away. A video of a woman surrounded by 5 men, each demanding her attention, pressing into her with raw, unrestrained intensity. No slow build, no choreography, just pure chaos. I clicked without thinking and was instantly hooked. She trembled under their touch, gasping, breaking apart, and I felt it all. Pleasure crashing over me, overwhelming, violent. I was left breathless, shaken, yet it wasn't enough. Hours later, the ache lingered deep in my body, a hum beneath my skin. I craved what she'd felt. Lost in thought, I noticed 4 men nearby, chatting casually over drinks. One had tattoos creeping past his sleeves, another smirked like he owned the room. They hadn't seen me, but their words hit me hard. "Most women say they want something wild," one mused, "but when it's real, they hesitate." Another added, "They don't even know what they want. That's why they need to be shown." It wasn't about me, but it felt personal. I sipped my drink, letting the motion speak. James caught my eye, a dangerous smile curling his lips. I didn't look away. He stood, stretching, his movements deliberate yet casual, and approached me. Settling beside me at the bar, his heat and confidence radiated. "You've been listening," he said, voice low. I traced my glass's rim, meeting his gaze steadily. "Hard not to," I replied. He smirked, sipping his drink. "Agree with what you heard?" "Maybe," I said, unflinching. His eyes darkened, a challenge beneath the amusement. "I live upstairs," I stated simply. He laughed quietly, impressed. "You don't waste time." "Neither do you," I shot back. That was it. He finished his drink, set it down, and nodded toward the door. "Lead the way." The elevator ride buzzed with tension, silent but heavy. In my apartment, my hands were steady, but my pulse raced. I stepped inside. He followed, closing the door softly, pinning me against it. His breath grazed my neck. I turned, and his lips claimed mine, deep, demanding, unhesitant. My fingers slipped into his shirt, pulling him closer as my back hit the wall. His hands explored my waist, confident, igniting something restless and raw. He lifted me effortlessly, my legs wrapped around him as he carried me to the bed. When my back hit the mattress, I gasped. His weight pressed me down, his touch precise, intentional, driving my body to respond. The intensity built, fast, hungry, until I couldn't hold on. Pleasure crashed over me, fierce and sudden, unraveling everything. Yet, as the high faded, the hunger remained. James lay beside me, satisfied, brushing a hand down my thigh. "Did that satisfy your curiosity?" My lips trembled, pulse unsteady. We both knew the answer, not even close. The air was thick with sweat and skin. I turned to him, fingers trailing his chest. "Text your friends," I whispered near his ear. His smirk faltered, then sharpened with realization. "You're serious," he murmured. "Do I look like I'm joking?" He chuckled, sent the message, and teased. "You have no idea what you just asked for." I stretched beside him, anticipation swirling. Now I waited. A knock jolted me. 3 men stepped in, owning the space instantly. No hesitation. They knew why they were here, and so did I. James watched, smirking as hands found me. One pressed against my back, gripping my waist, his heat searing. Another tilted my chin, kissing me deeply, purposefully. A third skimmed my thigh, teasing, igniting. They moved seamlessly, one stealing my breath, one anchoring me, one learning every shiver. Then they shifted, positioning me as they wanted. I surrendered completely. The pressure built, relentless, until I shattered. Raw, consuming, violent. Waves ripped through me again and again, spiraling deeper. It was too much, yet never enough. The room settled into a heavy stillness, the echoes of the night lingering like a fading pulse. My skin still tingled, every nerve raw and alive, but the void I'd carried for so long had finally quieted. James lounged beside me, his smirk softened by curiosity. The others had slipped out silently, leaving only the scent of their presence, sweat, heat, and something unspoken. I stared at the ceiling, not lost this time, but grounded, as if I'd claimed a piece of myself. He shifted, propping himself on an elbow, dark eyes studying me. "You're different now," he said, his voice low, probing. I didn't respond right away, letting the silence stretch. My fingers traced idle patterns on the sheets, feeling the texture beneath them. "Maybe," I murmured, my tone steady but distant. He chuckled, warm yet edged with something sharper. "Most people would have stopped at the first taste. You didn't even flinch." I turned my head to meet his gaze, unflinching still. "I don't do half measures." His smirk widened, but his eyes narrowed like he was piecing me together. "So what's next?" "You got what you wanted, chased it down and caught it. Where do you go from here?" The question hung heavy, laced with implication. I didn't have an answer yet, but my body did. The hunger might have quieted, but a new spark flickered beneath my skin, restless and daring. Before I could speak, he moved closer, his hand sliding up my thigh, slow and deliberate. The heat of his touch reignited something primal. "You're not done, are you?" he teased, his breath grazing my neck. I didn't pull away. Instead, I tilted my head, letting his lips brush my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. "Not even close," I whispered, my voice thick with intent. He didn't hesitate. His mouth found mine, hard and demanding, pulling me back into that familiar storm. My hands gripped his shoulders, nails digging in as he pressed himself against me, his weight pinning me to the bed. The sheets twisted beneath us as his fingers slipped lower, tracing the curve of my hip before dipping between my thighs. I gasped, my body arching into his touch, already sensitive from before but craving more. His movements were precise, teasing at first, then firm, coaxing a low moan from my throat. "You like this, don't you?" he murmured against my ear, his voice rough as his fingers worked me, slow circles building into something relentless. My breath hitched, my hips moving instinctively to match his rhythm. "Yes," I managed, the word breaking as heat pooled deep inside me. He smirked, shifting his weight to hover over me, his free hand pinning my wrist above my head. The control in his grip sent a jolt through me, amplifying every sensation. Then he pulled back just enough to shed his shirt, revealing the taut lines of muscle I'd only felt before. My hands roamed his chest, tracing scars and ink, memorizing the feel of him. He caught my gaze, eyes dark with promise, and slid down my body. His mouth replaced his fingers, hot and unyielding, his tongue flicking against me with expert precision. I cried out, my back bowing off the bed as pleasure ripped through me, sharp and unmerciful. He didn't let up, holding my hips steady as I trembled, pushing me past the edge until I shattered again, breathless and undone. When he finally climbed back up, his lips glistened, and that dangerous smile returned. "Still want more?" he taunted, already nudging my legs apart. I nodded, too wrecked to speak, and he didn't wait. He thrust into me deep and sudden, filling me completely. The stretch burned, then melted into something overwhelming. My legs wrapped around him, pulling him closer as he moved. Hard, fast, no restraint. Each thrust drove a sound from me, raw and desperate, the tension coiling tighter until it snapped. I came apart beneath him, waves crashing over me as he followed, a low groan escaping him as he buried himself one last time. We collapsed, tangled and slick with sweat, the air thick with the scent of us. My pulse thudded in my ears, my body heavy yet alive. He brushed a lazy hand through my hair, smirking faintly. "Now what?" he asked again, voice hoarse. I let out a slow breath, a satisfied smile tugging at my lips. "I guess we'll see," I said, still catching my breath. For the first time, I wasn't chasing. I was choosing, and in that quiet moment, I knew the game had only just begun.